Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice.
How can I build a more valuable practice? Over the last 2 weeks, I've heard this now from multiple owners, and a few of them were at the end of their private practice journey looking to transition out. And they were thinking through this. And in this episode, I want to talk about something that you're probably missing if you're looking at maximizing the value of your practice. And this is from world experience, not only with my practice, but also other owners that I've worked with. You want to build a more valuable practice. You want to be very attractive to an acquirer. You want to start thinking about everything from not just your perspective, but also from the acquirer's perspective. Let's say, and I came across a similar situation like this probably about 5 years ago now, but I had talked with an owner. They were looking to transition out. They no longer wanted to treat. They weren't going to be for the transition period, but they essentially wanted I call it a mango tree exit, where I just sell my practice and then I go sit under, the mango tree, or I retire in some way, or maybe switch over to another profession. But I want to do this, and I want it to be, the day that I sign, I get my check and then I leave. And I have no liabilities going forward or anything, no responsibility to train the next clinician or the next owner, and I'm just completely done. And what I had shared with that owner is, from an acquirer's perspective, in this case it was mine, that is not appealing. Right now, that owner in this case represented roughly 50%, 40 to 50% of the treatment time that was available. Now this person's going away. I have to go out. I have to find a clinician. I have to bring them in. I have to train them up on my systems. And that takes a lot of time. The one thing that this owner said was, I know right now we're doing, I believe it was 130 visits a week, and you're going to come in this space and you know how to market. You could probably get this up to 200 visits a week easy. And they wanted, that owner who was selling wanted to recognize that value. That is not how that works. Any advantage that your acquirer is bringing to the table, that is their advantage. That you don't get to capture that. I'll give you an extreme example. Let's say you have an insurance contract that is paying you $70 a visit, and the acquirer has a contract with that same insurance company and they're getting $150 a visit. As the seller, you don't get to capture that delta, that difference between the $150 a visit and the $70 a visit. That's the advantage of the acquirer. That's something that they're bringing to the table, and they're rewarded for that. Without doing a deep dive into too many other tangents, I want to talk specifically about marketing, because one of the first things that I'll talk with anytime that an owner is looking to sell, whether I'm involved or I'm just simply helping the owner, is we talk about how diverse is your new patient flow, where are your new patients coming from? Because if I'm going into a small practice and there's one or two physicians that are referring the bulk of the new patient flow to that practice, that is not appealing at all, right? And I mean, in those cases, it's pretty much the cost of the equipment in the clinic is what I'd be looking at versus, an EBITDA calculation or something like that. And I know that I'm not alone in this, and most of the acquirers that I've talked with have shared a similar stance. Where your new patients are coming from is key. I know when I've gone through this, and whether I was internally selling or externally selling, acquirers want to see that. They want to see that we have a very diverse range of where our new patients are coming from, and that we can better control that, right? When you're an acquirer, that is equivalent to you investing, let's say, in the stock market. And, if you have one, I'll use NVIDIA, that's the cliche company right now. And I think it's like 40% of their revenues comes from three other companies. And it's like, who's investing in, who's buying NVIDIA chips? And I forget who it is off the top of my head. Let's say it's Amazon, Facebook, and Google. I don't think that's right, but it's basically three companies that are buying nearly half of the NVIDIA chips. So very non-diverse, right? That seems super risky to me to buy NVIDIA. And many others have talked about this as well. It's the same thing if you and I are working together, we're going to go out and buy a physical therapy practice, and we're sitting down with the owner, and the owner says, I see 10 new patients a week, and 8 of them come from the doctors down the hallway. That's that's a knock against the practice and decreases the value of the practice. We want to diversify new patient channels. How do I do that? How do I think about that as an owner? I want to sell my practice in 2 years, 5 years, 50 years, whatever that might be. How do I start working on that today? We're going to cover that in this episode, go over a structure for that. And also we're going to talk about inconsistent flow, which is another that's not only a profitability killer for you, even if you're not selling your practice, it's also an issue if you're looking to maximize the value of your practice, because the gold standard right now in valuing private practices today, whether you're in physical therapy like I am, if you're a chiropractor, functional medicine doctor, integrated practice, naturopath, etc., dentistry, optometry, it's all very much the same. It's EBITDA, basically your earnings, your profitability, times a multiple. And the more diverse your new patient flow is, the better the multiple can be. When you do this the right way, yes, you're going to be more valuable. You're going to get a higher multiple. The safer your income stream is to your acquirer, the person purchasing your practice, the higher multiple you can demand. The less diverse it is, the lower multiple. And yeah, I mean, there's some other factors that go into it that might be higher priority, like the size of your practice, etc. But in general, if you're diverse where your new patients are coming from and you're going to be more valuable, you can demand a higher multiple in the working place. The next one is that consistency of new patient flow. A lot of practices struggle with a slow season. And what we want to do in those situations is we want to have those 5 new patient channels firing on all cylinders when they need to be firing. Quick review there. You have reactivations, lowest hanging fruit, your patient list. Next level up is word of mouth referrals from your patients. Next level up is the third is referrals from other licensed professionals, so physicians, nurse practitioners, podiatrists, dentists, etc. Next level up is referrals from partners. These are large employers or organizations in your area who can promote you and your services to their list. And then finally, we have cold traffic marketing. We want some diversity there. We want to be able to control everything across the board in terms of where our new patients are coming from. Now, maybe you're of the mindset you've never wanted to market and you are just crushing it with high quality of care and word of mouth referrals and reactivations from your past patient base. If you're doing, and that's enough for you to grow and show growth over the last 5 years, congratulations, you're in rare company. But for most practices, they're going to have to exert more effort, especially with a slow season. The importance of the slow season is typically we have minimal or negative margins during that slow season. And what that does is adversely affect our earnings that we can show in our trailing 12 months for the value of our practice. It's much better if we think about that and we say, I'll give the example of I'm in the Northeast between Thanksgiving and the holiday season, end of the year. If we don't do anything about it, when we don't handle it the right way, when we're not diversified, we take a hit. We have less new patients coming in. I remember one year this was for a single site practice, we had 100 new patients in October, we had 106 in November, and we had 66 in December. And I remember talking with our marketing person and she said, well, nobody wants to come in during the holidays. And when I did a review, oddly, she, became self-prophetic, self-fulfilling prophecy because she had actually reduced our marketing outflow during that time of year because of what she personally was feeling. A better way to look at it would be, what can we do during this anticipated slow season to make sure that we're full, that it carries us through and it's our busiest time of year? And you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have some effectiveness across those 5 channels, some diversification. If you're relying on physician referrals and they go away, whether they're purchased by their practice is purchased and the referrals are purchased by the local hospital or healthcare system, or they simply take a vacation, or they're out for some reason, for even illness, then your referrals dry up, right? We want to be diversified. The other one is, as an acquirer, if you and I, again, were looking at various practices to purchase, we would want to know, well, how good are they at adding clinicians and filling those clinician schedules? And how good are they at expanding space, either in existing clinics or opening new clinics, de novos, and filling that space as well? That ability, the ability to do that consistently, is very valuable in the marketplace because, once again, it's rare. It's not everybody can open a clinic successfully and get it to run smoothly. And if you're able and willing to do that, when you're able and willing to do that, because you understand the 5 new patient channels, you're going to be a lot more successful and valuable in the marketplace. The other thing that it will do, the final big benefit here, is when you do that, when you have the increased ability and you increase your confidence level in filling schedules and filling space, it aligns all of your other shareholders. Even if you're 100% sole proprietor and you're just simply, have a line of credit with the bank or something like that, they're going to extend confidence, which means they're going to allow you to borrow more money if you're choosing to do that. We never did that in opening our de novos. We always did it with cash. But what it did is, once we did it one time, I remember remember in 2018, September of 2018, we opened a de novo in 1,200 square feet. In week 7, we had 107 visits in that space. And we did it primarily with cold traffic marketing and some patients also following that clinician who had a very good reputation. But nonetheless, we were able to fill that up. And then a year later, we were able to expand it, working with that director who's now a partner, and get up to 200 visits a week. Right? So we went from 1,200 square feet to 2,600 square feet, 0 visits to 200 visits a week. Took about 16 months to do that. But that was because of the control of the 5 new patient channels. Once that happened, morale was high. Our other directors, our other therapists saw this, and they had a lot more confidence opening up additional de novos and going into new markets because we had this secret sauce, this special advantage, and we weren't going to rely solely on physician referrals or word of mouth. We had some other levers to pull and effectiveness within our marketing. Very much when you do it the right way, it increases morale across the board for your team, for your shareholders. If you have a significant other at home that is helping you with the decisions or you need to run things by, all of these things will start to align and they'll have more confidence in you. The situation that I want to share here is, again, I want to go back to, selling a practice. And I have a lot of friends that go through this within the private practice space. I'm going to guess it's just off the top of my head, 6 or 7 dozen practice owners who've exited that I've talked with, worked with at some point. And one of the first questions I'll ask, and the vast majority of the time I'm not involved, on either side as the buyer or seller, I'm just giving friendly advice, is, the very first thing that I'll say is, okay, what does your new patient flow look like? Where are your new patients coming from? And that's typically after we do the earnings, what does your practice look like? What do you want to happen? And sometimes there's misalignment there. Most of the time it's the owner really has a good idea of what their practice is worth. But, in one of those situations, I remember the practice owner said, look, I have 4 referral sources that refer the vast majority of my business. And, it's one large employer and 3, we're on their workers' comp panel and we have 3 other contracts. And in that person's case, they were very low value and they were upset about that. And they said, I've spent all these years building this business, and it was a large business. It was doing a lot of revenue, a lot of profitability, very beneficial for the owner. He had a lot of employees, but anytime that he was talking with an acquirer, because of those 3 contracts, and they were all short-term contracts, there wasn't a lot of value there. I know some owners are very much migrating to, direct to employer type contracts. You can do that, but realize that if you're looking for an exit on the end, anytime that somebody's making an acquisition, they're basically buying future cash flow. And if your contracts are running, an annual contract year to year, or, 2 or 3 years or less, then that's the value of your business. They call that the discounted cash flow model. If the future value of your contracts is, let's say each contract is worth $500K a year and they're only running a year out, that's $1.5 million in revenue. You're going to have to subtract out, the cost to provide that $1.5 million in services, which is primarily the employment cost. And then you're going to be left with some, whatever that acquirer is doing there, that's what they're looking at. Let's say it costs $1 million to service $1.5 million, then the value of the business is $500K, right? Discounted to present day, which is even less than $500K. The big idea is that it's not diversified. I was talking with an owner about marketing, and specifically marketing a de novo clinic, and I wrote out 36 processes that we have in our marketing system. I go through, and this is simply a checklist, but I go through all 5 new patient pathways, reactivations, word of mouth referral, physician or professional licensed referral, partner referrals, and then cold traffic marketing. And I laid out all of our processes and what that looks like. If you'd like a copy of that, simply click on the link. You can download a copy so you know what a marketing system looks like that addresses all 5 new patient pathways. It's going to give you confidence whether you're opening a new clinic or you have an established clinic and you're just looking to fill the schedules of your existing therapist, or you're just looking for consistency in your new patient flow. This is how we think about, this is how we've evolved over 20 plus years, working with now over 2,000 private practice owners from all over the world, not only all 50 states in the US, but 11 countries internationally, physios in 11 countries internationally as well. So if you like that sheet, it's absolutely free. You can click on the link, download it, and get a checklist of the marketing processes that we have in our marketing system.
Thank you for listening this far. Now back to the episode.
in that situation. And there's a lot that you can do today to be more diversified in the future in terms of where your new patients are coming from. In that case, with that owner, they were kind of shocked, not as valuable as I thought I would be. Again, been at this 20 plus years. And the other thing that they'll say is my deal is public. When I did an external sale with USPH back in April of 2022, the terms are there. And sometimes the owner will hit this pitfall and they'll say, hey, I know you got a 9, right? A 9 multiple. And again, it's publicly available. I'm not violating an NDA or anything like that. And they'll say, my business is worth a 9 because here's this unique thing that we do that you don't do. And that could be true. Most oftentimes it is not. And the multiples are the same when the variables are the same, within a quarter point or two. When the variables are very different, that creates a problem. And I'll give you a little bit of history here. Early on, when I first opened, I had 2 physicians that I had worked with previously who said they encouraged me to open up, and they said, we'll send you patients. And one of them moved out of state because of a dramatic increase in liability insurance 6 months after I opened up. Absolutely amazing orthopedic surgeon, moved to Arizona, and his referrals went to 0. And there was nothing really that I could do about that. Early on, I figured out I need to market to a lot of other physicians. And because in 2003, 2004, that was the name of the game in private practice PT within Pennsylvania. We had just, I think it was 2004, we got direct access. I think it was number 37 on there in terms of licensed direct access physical therapists within the state. Applied right away and got that, but then quickly discovered there was more to it than just getting a direct access license. At the same time, did want to diversify where our new patients were coming from physicians, just in case this would happen again. And by the way, we got really good at that. I know one quarter I did nearly 40 physician luncheons. I had it down, which is about 3 a week, doing a lot of visits, talking with a lot of doctors, trying to understand exactly what they were looking for and making a referral, and then making sure that we were delivering and communicating on what it is that they were looking for. We got fairly good at that. Fast forward 5 years later, November of 2008, we hit an all-time high with 154 physician referrals in a given month, and no physician was more than 4 of those referrals. Very diverse. In that year, in 2008, we had over 200 unique physicians, nurse practitioners, PAs, other licensed practitioners refer to us. Very, very wide. Again, this is for a single site clinic. Very wide. What happened from there is our physician referrals went away. And they started going away because the 3 local hospital systems were purchasing those family physician practices and also their referrals. This is not new. 2018 Journal of General Internal Medicine published a study. There was a 53.6% decline in family physician referrals to physical therapy for back pain from 2003 to 2014. I was in the unique opportunity to see it first here in Central. Many other owners caught up, over the next 10, 15 years. Now everybody knows, that this was something that really happened and our referrals went away. That was the struggle, and that's the struggle a lot of owners deal with. And the solution in the end was not only diversifying with physicians, which I had shared, but it was also diversifying across the 5 new patient channels. And I've shared what they are, but really we wanted to have effective systems across the board for each of those 5 channels. What's working for reactivations? Today we know what that is there's probably 7 or 8 processes that we have in place there, but it's everything from a recheck day to a patient newsletter to handwritten letters to email campaigns we send out to text campaigns that we send out. Lots of effort process. There's a system in place now for reactivations. We have the same thing for word of mouth referrals. We have the same thing for those physicians who are still independent and refer to us. We have the same thing for our partners, those organizations in the community that are willing to promote our services. We have the same thing in place for our cold traffic marketing. Multiple processes in place. In the end, we have a nice system. I did write this out. I will try to make it available to you. Probably going to be a download. We'll get that out there, but it's a private practice marketing system. And I think I wrote out 36 different processes that we have in place to control our marketing across the 5 new patient channels. I don't believe it'll be in the show notes yet, but we'll have it in a future episode, and I'll give you a link to download that for free. The other thing that I wanted to share, what typically gets in the way, the 5 new patient pathways solved for us. There's something that happens for most owners who don't have the benefit of a physician moving out of state and losing their referrals, or 3 local hospital systems buying up all the referral sources in a very short period of time, and 90% of those physicians are now employed by the hospital system and can no longer refer to us. If you haven't gone through that pain, the one thing that can happen is this fairly nasty limiting belief, and it's around marketing. What happens for most of us as clinicians is we have an experience, we decide, oh my gosh, this is for me. I want to help people. This is great. And, it's this service mentality. We then decide to devote our career, our life to becoming a licensed clinician. We go to school, college, university, and we're studying. We are told that, if we just deliver the high quality of care that we're learning at the college or university program, and when we pass our license degree, we can go anywhere in the world and open up shop or work for an employer, and we're going to have more business than we know what to do with. That is not real, right? But we buy into it because we're naive and we don't know any better, and maybe we just misunderstand what's going on. We then go out into the real world. Most of us have worked for somebody else, and we have a jaded experience. I had a couple in working for others, and I remember one was I worked for a private practice that reused the electrodes on every patient, and I thought that was absolutely disgusting, and it was pretty gross. And I resolved mentally, I was like, wow, when I have my own place, everybody's going to get electrodes, their own electrodes. And I don't even think we're using stim that much anymore, like zero in the last 12 months. But yeah, we still have that same hygienic OCD obsessiveness around cleanliness and hygiene. However, when I first opened up, I quickly discovered that every patient having their own electrodes with their name on it was not going to solve my other business problems. I thought, if I just provide high quality of care, rely on word of mouth referrals, and everybody gets their own electrodes, then everything else solves itself. And those things did not help me hire the right receptionist, train the right receptionist, onboard the receptionist, did not help me hire a billing person, did not help me hire another clinician, did not help me hire, find the right CPA. All of those things I had to go through, and we're just talking about personnel. Those three things did not help me through my first termination or rolling out my first incentive program or learning how to market or learning how to diversify where my new patients came from. High quality of care didn't help with any of those other things. It didn't help me write a process or build a system or track metrics or run a staff meeting. All of those other, that was a whole other host of skill set that I had to go learn about and ultimately implement into the practice. What happens for most of us is we go through this resentment. And the first thing that we resent is, the college or university. Second thing we resent is typically it's marketing itself because, our schedule's not full. Now we have to go out and market and we have to relearn this whole other new topic that we thought was already handled just because we were delivering high quality of care. And the third thing that we resented is ourselves. And for some owners, this is really difficult to overcome. And what that owner typically will say is they will go back to the limiting belief and say, well, I believe that we shouldn't have to market and that I can just provide high quality of care and rely on word of mouth referrals, and my schedule should be full. If you find yourself saying that, Jim Quick in his book Limitless has a 3-step process to handle any limiting belief. I highly recommend you go through that process for yourself. We're all unique, but I know for me, this was a limiting belief that I had, and I thought everything would be okay. And I woke up, 3 years into private practice, and I was like, this is not right. I need to solve this. And I had to handle that limiting belief. Once I did so, it opened up the floodgates. And I was like, wow, there's a lot more to marketing here. And I had to go way outside of private practice PT to learn how to do that. But there's a lot more to marketing here. And I really got on that direct-to-consumer marketing bug. Became a student of that, started implementing it, started having wins, grew a more impactful practice, helping more people, grew a more valuable practice in the end as well. Just to recap, we talked through quite a few challenges here primarily on how diversifying your new patient flow across the 5 new patient channels can help you build a more profitable, more valuable practice. We talked about, the great things that happen when you do this the right way. Not only are you more valuable, you're helping more people, you increase the morale of your entire team because you can fill schedules and fill space at will. I shared the story of, although I tried to keep it anonymous and vague, but one of the stories of, an owner who came forward who wasn't diversified and their practice wasn't nearly as valuable as what they wanted it to be, and how they had to go back and remedy that to ultimately build a more valuable practice for the acquirer. We talked about the 5 new patient pathways and that framework and how that can help you diversify and where you're directing your energies there. And we also talked through the limiting belief, the clinician story of how we become jaded, typically against an employer, and then we resolve that we're going to have our own unique brand of high quality of care, and how that really doesn't solve our marketing problem, doesn't solve our personnel and our financial problems within our practice, and that we're going to have to work through that self-limiting belief in order to learn how to do things the right way and ultimately build the practice that we're looking for. Hope Hope you very much enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed reminiscing and putting it together. This is a really big sticking point for a lot of owners. And I know that when you handle this the right way, when you go through and handle that limiting belief, there's a lot that you can learn and getting processes and systems ultimately into your practice and making a difference within your community. Thanks, everybody. See you in the next episode. I was talking with an owner about marketing and specifically marketing a de novo clinic. And I wrote out 36 processes that we have in our marketing system. I go through, and this is simply a checklist, but I go through all 5 new patient pathways, reactivations, word of mouth referral, physician or professional licensed referral, partner referrals, and then cold traffic marketing. And I laid out all of our processes and what that looks like. If you'd like a copy of that, simply click on the link. You can download a copy so you know what a marketing system looks like that addresses all 5 new patient pathways. It's going to give you confidence whether you're opening a new clinic or you have an established clinic and you're just looking to fill the schedules of your existing therapist, or you're just looking for consistency in your new patient flow. This is how we think about, this is how we've evolved over 20 plus years working with now over 2,000 private practice owners from all over the world, not only all 50 states in the US, but 11 countries internationally, physios in 11 countries internationally as well. This is what I use in my own private practice. So if you like that sheet, it's absolutely free. You can click on the link, download it, and get a checklist of the marketing processes that we have in our marketing system.